Hi guys, Tracy here with a review of this sewing machine. This is the Janome New Home sewing machine, and a lot of you guys have commented that you can't wait to hear the review on this, so I bumped it up a little bit in the queue of videos that I have to make for you guys. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about it and giving you my first impressions. It is very, very similar to my Kenmore half-size sewing machine. I will show you the ways in which it's the same and different, and I'll also compare it to a full-size sewing machine so that you can get a sense of just how much smaller it is. Before I talk about the details of this sewing machine, all of its features, and how I use it for scrapbooking, I wanted to talk a little bit about how this sewing machine came to be in my possession. So this is a sewing machine that has quite a story to it. It's been around quite a lot, but it started out as a prize from Scrapbook & Cards Today magazine, and my good friend Moira O'Reilly happened to have won this sewing machine, and it was actually a prize where she won 2 sewing machines, which is an extremely generous prize. It must have been kind of like one for you, one for your friend type of a deal. And so she did win 2 of these machines. So she has one. And then she generously decided to put the second one as our prize in the 2017 International Scrapbooking Day crop that we have on our Facebook group every year. We were really excited to offer it up as a prize, and the winner, who was Kelly, and Kelly did agree to allow me to talk about how I came to have this machine. But Kelly won the main prize for that crop, and so she was going to receive this sewing machine. There were a couple of problems with that. First of all, because Kelly lives in the UK, shipping for this machine was going to be significantly more than the value of the machine. And also because it has a North American AC adapter, we weren't sure whether she would even be able to use it even if we did send it to her. And all of that was really a moot point because Kelly actually has a personal policy where she likes to donate any prizes that she wins to a domestic violence charity. And her favorite domestic violence charity is Safe Passage. And so what we thought we would do was instead of sending her the machine, that we would make a donation in the amount of the retail value of the machine, which I think was $80. So we made that donation. I made that donation in Kelly's behalf. And then we decided that because my little white machine was acting up on me, that's this one right here, that I would it's kind of like I bought the machine from Kelly. So I gave Kelly, this didn't really happen, but I gave Kelly the value of the machine, and then Kelly donated that money to Safe Passage. Only we just skipped the double transfer of money, and I just made the donation directly to Safe Passage. And Kelly was the one who donated the money to Safe Passage, but in doing so, I bought myself a sewing machine. So I was really inspired by Kelly's idea of fighting against domestic violence by giving to these causes. And so I decided that this sewing machine could come to represent the fight against domestic violence by providing some information on the machine. My thought was that this machine, especially this view of the machine, is seen by lots of mostly women, but also men, and also this side of the machine as well. In case anybody out there who is watching my videos is thinking about perhaps tapping into some of these resources so that it's really accessible for them, and so that the idea is out there that these resources are available for us to use, and that you know, if one person kind of is watching the video and thinks, oh yeah, maybe I've been thinking about doing this, but I haven't really taken any steps, it just kind of facilitates that. I have also changed up my YouTube templates so that every single video that I publish from this point forward will have these websites in the information section of each of those videos, and they're links so that you can just click on them, so it's much easier than having to write down a website. So, but these are the websites. This is, I put the US one at the top because the majority, according to my analytics, the majority of my viewers are from the US. So this is the US, it's the hotline.org. There are a lot of wonderful resources out there for domestic violence. That's one of the things that I learned in coming up with this little sticker that I put on my machine. But I wanted to choose one that was pretty central and not like state or province specific for each of my kind of, I guess, demographics. So I have the US one here, the US one is the hotline.org. This one, endingviolencecanada.org, and then getting help is the place that has the most helpful information. Is the Canadian one, and again that's specific to all of Canada, not a specific province. And then hotpeachpages.net. I was looking for other resources because I also have a lot of Australian viewers and a lot of Italian and Spanish and German viewers and UK viewers, and I wanted to have a resource on there, but I didn't want to have my sticker have like 10 million resources on it, 10 million websites on it either. I only have room for so many things on this little space. So what I decided to do was look for an international resource, and hotpeachpages.net. It's a website that you can go to. You can choose your language, you can choose your continent, and you can kind of like drill down from your continent to your country to your area of your country, and it touts itself as having all of the websites all in one place. And so I didn't look around too much because I'm just not familiar with the resources in other countries, but it looks like it is a good starting point at the very least for somebody in a non-North American country to start looking for information on domestic violence. So I just wanted to give a little bit of an explanation about that before I go into talking about the machine itself. So the machine itself comes with a couple of things. It comes with an AC power supply, and it comes with this foot pedal. And these two things are identical to the ones that I already have for this small white machine. They're identical. I took a look at the details on the power supply. I took a really close look at the foot pedal, and it's really identical. The plugs are the same and the information on it are the same. So I've been just using it with the cords that I already have set up. So these cords go down below my space. They're a little tangled, so these cords go down below my workspace, and the pedal just sits there all the time, and usually it's unplugged, but when I'm using my sewing machine it is plugged in, and you just put your foot on the pedal to make the machine go. And then this one, it just disappears under my desk and is plugged into a power bar under my desk. So you plug it in, the DC adapter goes right here, and then the pedal, you can tell because it has this little design on it right there, this little image. It just plugs in there, and then it's ready to go. So this machine is the Janome New Home sewing machine, and it is I think they call it a portable or a half-size sewing machine, and it's really, really wonderful for scrapbooking in particular. So this is the newer version of the Janome Sew Mini that is very popular and well reviewed online. If you look up reviews for the Janome Sew Mini, the majority of people who have it and have reviewed it have really positive things to say about it. Now this machine here is the Kenmore half size. My research tells me that this machine is the Janome Sew Mini. It's just rebranded for Kenmore, which is the Sears brand. And when I look at Janome Sew Minis, it is exactly like this. It's just that it's different colors and there's a few differences on it, but the structure of the machine is exactly the same. It's just that I think the things that are printed on it are different, and I think the coloring is a little bit different as well. So So this is basically the older version of this. This has been updated, and it seems to work pretty much identically. They are the same size, as you can see. Identical, and I mean all of the plastic on it is pretty much the same. So this piece here is the same as this piece here. The back stitch button is in exactly the same place. This one has a little drawer that this one does not have, but the bobbin works the same. Every single thing is the same about it, except for the lack of a drawer. This updated one has 2 extra stitches, so the older one only went up to H, and this one goes to J, to J. And so we have a scallop stitch that we didn't have before, and we have, I forget what this is called. It's called a tricot stitch, and I don't know what it's used for. It's used to finish the seam allowance on synthetics and other fabrics that tend to pucker. It's also excellent for darning and mending tears. Okay, so that's what the tricot stitch is for. I've never used it, and because I don't plan to use this for materials, I will probably never use this. I typically use C, and I really love H. It's a really tight zigzag that I adore. So these are the 2 stitches that I tend to use, either C or H. I'm really excited to try out this scallop zigzag stitch. I think that would be fun for making designs on scrapbook pages. And you can see that you can adjust the tension right here. I have it on 3. The other interesting thing that I read in the manual is that like the difference between A, B, C, and D is the length of the stitches. So A is a really tight stitch, B is a little looser, C is a little looser, and D is the loosest. What I read in the manual is that if you want to fine tune the stitches, like let's say D is a little too long but C is too short of a stitch for you, you can actually put your dial in between C and D, and it will give you an in-between stitch length. E is different. It's about the same width as C, like the same stitch length as C, but the needle is over. So I'll move it so that you can see the dial and the needle. So watch the needle when I move it to E. See, it goes over to the side there. So that is for if you want to kind of sew right on the edge of something. It makes it a little bit easier. I've never used that stitch. I usually just use one of the straight stitches, and then I just move my project over so that I'm sewing on the very edge. The back stitch is right here, and it works like any back stitch button that I've ever used, where you hold it down and then you press your foot and it'll go backwards instead of forwards, and then you let go and it'll keep going forwards. The presser foot goes up and down right here, so that lifts it. There's the presser foot right there, and then you press it down like that and it goes down. So it's kind of nice because you can actually reach in here to use it instead of having to reach behind, like some machines it's back here. So I quite like that. The bobbin is accessed by this little slide off little cover, and then you can just drop your bobbin in and pull it through so that you can sew. I have my foot pedal plugged in, and let's use H. I want to show you guys how fun that stitch is. It's just like the tiniest little zigzag. It's awesome. And I don't usually backstitch, but if you did, you just press this button and it goes backwards just like that, which means you're not going to be able to appreciate just how cute this stitch is because I just went over it. But there we go. Now, so I just wanted to show you how this machine compares to a standard sewing machine, just so that you could get a sense of just how much smaller it is and just how much easier it is to move it around and use it in your scrap space. So I'm going to bring over my regular sewing machine. This is the machine that I use for sewing clothing and fabric and repairing clothes and hemming. I'm short, so I have to do a lot of hemming. So this is it's also a Kenmore, and it has a lot more. It has 49 different stitch options, as you can see here. and it is quite a bit larger. I'll hold them right beside each other. I'll line them up like this so that, you know, it's about, well, yeah, it's a good, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 inches, 4.5 inches wide, longer, and then width-wise, you can see that it is quite a bit wider than this one as well. It has a lot more features. It has one of those little thread cutting things right here so that you don't have to use scissors. And it is a little bit easier to thread. It has like an automatic threading thing that you can use. I never use that. And it's a little bit easier to fill a bobbin, because with this one you fill a bobbin the same way for both kinds of machines. You basically put your bobbin on here and thread your thread around this thing here, this little knobby thing, and then put your bobbin right here and then push it back like that. But with this machine, the needle still goes up and down the whole time, so it's a little disconcerting. Like, it seems really unsafe, but it is safe. It's okay as long as you don't like put your hand under the needle or anything. But this one, when it's in bobbin mode, it disables the needle, so it just spins the bobbin, and that's, you know, it's a little bit more of a pleasant experience. I tend to not thread bobbins. I just buy bobbins already wound up, so I buy black and white ones. This one is electronic. It has a little screen here to tell you what your stitch length is and allows you to control the speed. This one is kind of really just one speed. It's going or not going. I don't find that pressing a little bit on the machine, I guess pressing a little bit on the foot does make it go a little bit slower, but it's you can't really control the speed as much as you can with this one. I mean, this one can go through a lot more different materials. This one is really just for thin materials, and yeah, I can't really think of any other thing that is different. Most machines work pretty much the same. Oh, this one has a light on it and this one does not. I tend to work in this really bright surface, really bright area anyway, so that doesn't really matter to me. But you know, it's another really big difference is the weight of it. So this one is really, really light. Like, I can very easily, I'm not a very strong person, and I've been really limited in what I can lift in terms of weight, like even a jug of milk. I guess this is about the same size as a jug of milk. This one is difficult. I almost can't lift it with one hand. I can, but I really, even with two hands, it's this sucker's pretty heavy. This one is really heavy, and this one is like totally light, like, you know, very, very light. So these are the stitches that you can create with this machine. We have A, B, C, and D are all just longer than one another. So A is the tightest stitch and D is the longest stitch. And then E is about the equivalent to C, but it is scooched over to the side. So these are all 1/2 a presser foot apart. And so you'll notice that the space is closer on this one. F is the widest zigzag stitch, G is the middle one, and H is the teeny little one. And this is how I looks. I really love this stitch. It's like a scalloped zigzag stitch. I really, really love it, and I can't wait to play around with incorporating it into my scrapbooking pages. And now this is J, that tricot stitch. I really love how this looks. It's basically a straight stitch of a zigzag pattern. I really, really love this, and I can see that final stitch J as being really useful in scrapbooking. So that's the Janome New Home portable or half-size sewing machine. I love that it's pink. It's just awesome. And this one here I have had for many, many years, and I think it just needs to be serviced. It is being, I've described it as contrary, meaning it works sometimes and it doesn't work other times, and so I am going to hang on to it. I think I will just I'll bring it to the service place and get them to give it a good cleaning. Generally speaking, sewing machines that you use on paper will need to be serviced more often than sewing machines that you use on fabric, just because so much fiber gets into the little workings of the machine. And also, if you're using, if you're sewing through adhesive, which I would suggest that you try not to do. I'm not too careful about not doing that, but the more careful you are, the less often you'll have to clean your machine. I try to use a wet baby wipe to just wipe off the needle when I'm finished sewing on it, just to make sure that the adhesive doesn't accumulate and get into the machines, into the workings of the machine. So I'm probably going to keep them both. It's not that I necessarily need to have 2 sewing machines, but they're so light and small. I store them right beside each other like this. I happen to have the space for it, and I think it'll be really handy to have one already set up with black thread and one already set up with white thread. They are pretty easy to change out, but when I'm making process videos, sometimes I just don't feel like changing the thread, so I think this will make my process for making process videos a little bit easier to have either option on hand right away. So let me know what you think about the Janome New Home. I keep wanting to call it as so many. The Janome New Home sewing machine. I really love it. If you have it, let me know how you find it. So you can get this online on Amazon or any other place where Janome machines are sold. So definitely worth looking into. Take care and have a really great scrappy week.